What's up, Zach Oates here, author, entrepreneur, and customer relationship guru. Welcome to Give an Ovation, growth strategies for restaurants and retailers, where we find industry leaders to share their secrets to grow your business. This podcast is sponsored by Ovation, the actionable guest feedback tool that works on or off premise and is easy, real-time, and actually drives revenue. Learn more at ovationup.com. Welcome to another edition of Give an Ovation, and I hope that you are chilling out because we are here at a happy hour with Fred Glick, who is joining us from the beaches of the DR, apparently. And Fred, I'm just excited that you're here, man.
I'm happy to be here. Couldn't wait to talk to you.
Yeah, so let me tell you guys, if you don't know Fred Glick, he is on the top of my must-follow list in the restaurant and leadership space in general. He's the president of Amergent Hospitality Group, which is Burgers Grilled Right, Little Big Burger, American Burger Company, Hooters. He's the former chair of the California Restaurant Association Foundation. He is an incredible change management leader, and his superpower is written right there on a shirt. He sparks peace and love. He sparks peace, love, and burgers to make people happy. Fred,
there you go.
So let's jump into this, man, because you know that beer isn't going to be here all day, and my caffeine-free Coke Zero isn't either. But talk to me about your philosophy around customer experience. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I've been lucky to have some great mentors throughout my years, and one of them lives here in San Diego, Ken Blanchard, and the Ken Blanchard Companies, and Scott Blanchard lives here and has done consulting with our companies. And his sort of final book he wrote, you have to manage a triple bottom line. And this was so impactful to me because you always focus on the cash flow, you always focus on the financials of the business, or you're focused on your guest. But finding the balance and balancing this triple bottom line of becoming an employer of choice, a destination of choice, and an investment of choice was life-changing. And we actually, back in the day when I first read this, altered our core values to add balance because we felt that there were times when our company was out of balance. We were focused too much on the employer, too much on the guest, or just too much on the bottom line at the expense of the others. So in all of our discussions and our strategy, we run it through that filter. We make sure that we're never out of balance. And if you take that and add, the service profit model, which is basically you start with your team and get them the tools and the training and the whatever they're asking for they need, train them to be obsessed about taking care of the guest, and then they take care of the guest. And if you take care of the guest, they'll give you their money, they'll come back, and your sales and profits will go up. That goes to the investor, who can then start that cycle around. The interesting thing about all that is recently, and I think restaurants do better than any other industry give back to the local communities. We don't get any credit for it. Every restaurant I've ever been associated with, every brand I've been associated with, the little leagues come in, the schools come in, the business on the street needs help. We feed them, we give them gift cards, we take care of them. And so the last one in balance now is you want to be a good neighbor, and you want to be the neighbor of choice. So you want to be in your local, hyper-local communities, be a neighbor of choice. So we focused first on the employee and asked them what they needed. So we came and did an employee engagement study. We said, how are we doing? What do you need? What can we do better? We found out that we weren't doing a great job in some areas, and we went back and improved in those areas like benefits and recognition systems and reward systems.
Interesting.
But then the real focus is, how do you engage them to enjoy serving burgers, right? It's a hyper competitive spot. It's not a very sexy thing. You can hear everybody from the president to, burger flipper is not a positive connotation. And so how do you motivate people, right? We're not in the flipping burger business. We're in the happiness business, right? And every human that you come into contact with, you can have a positive influence on their day. And that's it. And so we can be the spark that creates that good moment in that person's day. and we don't know where they're coming. And in today's environment, with today's what's going on in the world, people need it more than ever. Our team has done an incredible job. One, just showing up, right? That's the hardest part about this whole thing, because there's fear. Everybody's afraid to go out. And then once you show up, you're dealing with people in crisis. Everyone is in crisis. And so everyone's been affected by this. Everyone's in a bad mood. Some people want you to wear a mask. Other people don't want you to wear a mask. And so we just have this love all, serve all kind of thing, like Hard Rock Cafe. Everything's fine. Our goal is to be nice, be kind, and we've come up with these values of love, serve, and care. And you know, we want people with a positive energy. And you know, there's people that you meet that either bring energy or suck the life out of you. And we want to work with people that have this positive vibe and can enjoy a little happy hour, work hard, play hard mentality, where you get to come to work, you work hard, you take care of the guest, and then we all sort of go back and celebrate our little successes for 24 hours, and we go back and work again.
Yeah, and I love that concept. You sent me over that document of, you know, your philosophy on love, serve, and care. And we talked about Simon Sinek and starting with why. You know, I love that you start with love, right? It's all based on being a good influence, being an uplifting, you know, positive part of someone's day. That's the why. And then the what are you doing? You're serving. And then how do you do it? You care. I think all the time. I was in Japan. I was in a mall, and I just got like a chicken bowl, right? And it struck me so distinctly that this woman behind the register took my order and then went over and made my chicken bowl. And she was so careful at making sure the rice was all rounded. She put the chicken on there so gently. She drizzled the sauce on it perfectly. She sprinkled the little chives on top so it looked beautiful. And then she handed it to me with so much gratitude that literally I was emotionally filled just from that one interaction. And I think it was incredible.
I couldn't agree more. And every human has had that experience. We've all had that experience in our lives where a stranger made our day, right? And it wasn't about necessarily, because you didn't even discuss whether it even tasted good. Didn't matter.
No.
She cared about what she was doing. She was a craftsman and she cared, and that translated to a great experience. You know, one of our training, there's a great video out there called "I'll Never Forget That Cup of Coffee." And it's about a server named Lily in a fictional, you know, in an airport. And basically the motto of the story was this person was so engaged and focused. And you know, it always hits us when we don't expect it. And we have these moments where someone does something that, and in our segment, in fast casual, service and hospitality is not necessarily the driver of the experience. You know, there's some fantastic brands out there. Chick-fil-A probably gets the most street cred for being nice, and they have a canned, you know, policy of what they're saying. It's not even authentic. It's repeating the same thing back. So, but they're polite, they're nice, and they're beating the expectation when you go in. So you don't have to be Ruth's Chris. You don't have to be a high end. That's not what we're going for. High touch, that kind of thing. We want to portray that we care about each other. We care about our guests. We care about the environment. We care about the product, and we do that by serving people. And when you serve people, you're subservient. Like if you don't like people and people piss you off, this is the wrong business for you, right? It's not going to be a good day if you're in the hospitality business and you're mad all the time at people.
Yep.
And I used to say this all the time. People would come and complain with stories like, I can't believe this person asked for me to go back and do this again. Well, I said, you know what, you're right. This business would be so much easier if we didn't have customers. I mean, those customers are so annoying. I can't believe that we put up with them. I think maybe we'll start this business and we'll just not have any customers. I think that might be the way to go. Yeah. And when you throw it back at them and let them process, we're here to serve people. In this crisis, We talk about first responders and nurses and people that are putting themselves at risk. All of our employees are doing the same thing. Now, they're not getting credit for it. They're out there in the public. They're serving people. They're doing it because they care and they love. And we're not making anyone work currently that doesn't want to, right? So if you're not comfortable, or maybe you have someone at risk at home, right? So we don't want to put anybody at risk. But if you feel comfortable coming out, we'd love to have you come out and make people happy in a time of need when they really need happy.
I love that, because at the end of the day, you extending the same level of respect to your employees that you expect your employees to extend to the customers is essential, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We wouldn't survive without everybody, including everyone up to our managers. Everyone has been incredible. Our team stepped up in a time of crisis. We can't thank them enough. I mean, we've tried to increase some PTO and give some raises where we could, but no one's making money, right? Everyone is trying to survive. So step one of this whole nasty process is survive. And to do that, sometimes you can't go out and unless you're a $1 billion company, it's hard to give a whole bunch of raises, hazard pay, and some of the other things. So you survive. And now as we come out of it, I'll be taking my first trip next week, and I'm excited because our North Carolina locations are opening dining rooms. So we're going on a hug tour, a virtual hug, elbow bump, hug from across the room, socially distant, safe, love tour, and thanking people for what they have been doing, what they continue to do. And we'll do that with each brand as they're allowed. And we don't have a lot of brands yet in the markets that we're in that are allowed to open up their dining rooms. But as markets open safely, we can go out and thank them and be personally and get that human interaction again. Because it's really, in our business, it's all about the human interaction.
Yeah. And so talk to me about how do you train your staff to be genuine, right? I know a lot of that has to do with hiring the right people, but you can't always get that right? And I like that kind of this love, serve, care. Yes, you have your policies, but I love that that's like your philosophy, right? That's like the overarching principle of how you do what you do. But how do you instill that in the employees? How do you make them care enough? And well, one quick question, quick story to back that. So Memorial Day, I was eating at a place called Pig and Berries up in Bear Lake. And I was sitting out there eating with my wife and 2 kids. And the gentleman came over and said, "Oh, I was going to ask how everything was, but it looks like, the ice cream's almost gone. So was it pretty good?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Great. Well, appreciate you doing business with us. We just opened today. So thank you for coming by. Hope to see you guys again." And I was like, I turned to my wife and I was like, I wonder if he's an owner, because for someone to care that he stepped out and came over to us just to say that, meant something to us. And so as he was walking by again, I was like, "Excuse me, do you own this place?" He goes, "Yeah, I do." And I was like, I get it. Because it's hard to instill that in employees, right?
Yeah, you hit it on the head with the hiring strategies. So we work with personality profiles to try and ask the right questions during the interview to get the results that you want, right? So we want optimists. We want people with positive attitudes. We want people that feel that they have control over their lives. So one of the, Scott Blanchard, one of the times I was on the phone with him, he said, if you can only figure out one thing to find out about your team members that you want to find people that believe that they have control over their life, that their actions will help them get ahead. They're not victims. They're not, it's not what the world does to me. The world owes me something. But if you can find the people that believe that their actions will get them ahead, then they'll make the right decisions based upon what the company's kind of asking. So we meet with our team 3 times a week. We talk to all of our team members, and in those discussions, we said, you know what, the people that are currently in our locations are incredibly dedicated. Like, we could build a company around everybody that's decided to stay and work through this crisis is now functionally cross-trained in everything, in every position, very strong. Everybody, productivity levels across all restaurant brands are through the roof because you've probably only kept your A players. You have managers working as hourly people right now. And so everyone is sort of pulling together to get this done. And so you have this culture of incredible talent working really hard for a common goal. And we've been talking because as you bring a new person who hasn't worked for you before, or even if you bring someone back, it's going to be very difficult to break into that sort of family that you have, sort of like a cohort going through college where you get this common shared knowledge and college shared experience. And so the new people won't have that. So it's going to be hyper critical for us as we onboard new people to inundate them into our philosophies, to give them a mentor as they get hired, to teach that why, right? So the why, how, what from Simon Sinek, I think, is brilliant. And we use the why, the I Spark, for all of our brands, right? We want the same value systems for any human being that we hire, no matter what the what is. It doesn't matter if I'm serving burgers or chickens or steak or pizza or whatever.
Or iPods.
So, or iPods. And I believe that triple bottom line works for any business that you're in as well, right? So you got to balance employees and guests and profits. All three have to be in balance. And the funny thing is, all three of those entities actually understand that. The guest is the one you don't have the conversation with. You certainly have a conversation with your investors, right? They want profit. But if you explain the model of we have to take care of our employees, we have to take care of our guests, otherwise there's no profit, investors go, makes sense. If you explain to your employees that without the guests, there's no job, and without a profit, there's no job, most employees get that too. So it's a very simple, I think everything should be geared towards what I was, which is like a B- C+ student. Like let's make sure that everyone understands the message. Let's keep it very simple and clear. And so the why is comprehensive, and even the how. The how is the values that we have. It's how we deliver the products, how we train. It's the what is the part that's different. What is, I serve burgers, I serve pizza, I serve iPods, whatever it is. And so that messaging that Simon Sinek put together, I think, is brilliant, and I think it touches on the heart. So you'd ask the question, how do you get your employees engaged? You have to teach them the why. You can't say you're coming in to do the what, right? I need you to come in and flip some burgers and serve it to that person over there. You need to say, when you come in, we're going to give you the opportunity to make 2 million people happy next year, which is how many people we serve, right? So we're going to have 2 million opportunities to have these great experiences, to create this great environment, and to make people happy and create joy. And there's nothing more powerful than that. And if you are aligned, if you're supposed to be in the hospitality business, that just gives you more energy. If people piss you off, then you're not in the right place anyway.
No, I love that. And in terms of the energy, right? There are some people, for example, go to a trade show, right? And there's people who hate going to trade shows, and you could tell they just don't like being there. There are people who are good at it, but then when you get back to the hotel, they are drained and they are just so done. And there are people who at the end of a day of being on your feet, talking to, thousands of people or hundreds of people, it's like they get so pumped, and that is, of all the trade shows I've been to in the hospitality space, I find the most of those types of people, the true yellows, the true extroverts, the people who thrive on that connection. It fills them up, right? And I think I think you're spot on there. It just makes so much sense in the hospitality space to have not only that ownership over my action, but that appreciation for that connection.
Yeah, and I found that if there's someone that's a true pessimist, I'm not going to go back and have them. They can see life how they want to see it, and they can choose their own path. But if there's someone that brings energy, I'm like drawn to them. Like I can't wait to go back and have another meeting with them and go back and find out what else they're doing. And so there's been some great mentors that I've had in my life, but almost all of them to the T are optimists that look for the good in people. And so the brand attracts people that are attracted to that kind of philosophy, right? So if you go in and all the employees are having a good time and smiling, some people are like, oh, it's all phony or fake. You know, the pessimists in the world will go, that's all pretend. The optimists will go like, I can't wait to work in a place like this, right? Where people are having fun. You can find, I love the fish video that came out, I don't know, 30 years ago, where the people in Seattle are throwing the fish and having a great time and they're having fun at work. Like, that's where you want to go, especially if you're young. Like, most of our employees are still, especially now that I'm old, but most of our employees are young, and life's too short to not have fun at work, right? So you got to find something you like to do and that motivates you.
And yeah, because if you understand the why, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, it's one of my all-time favorite books. I keep it right here on my shelf. In that book, he basically says the man who knows his why can bear almost any how, right? The long hours, the global pandemic, the rude customer, the, you know, whatever it may be, the supply chain mishap, all of that stuff could be overcome when you know that what you're doing is to create, or in your case, to spark peace and, you know, peace and love. What was it? Peace and love with and burgers. Peace, love, and burgers.
Yeah, well, that's our what. But yeah, but the goal is to make people like, and I couldn't agree more. And that was one of the most influential when I first had heard about Viktor Frankl through the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That became sort of my Bible. And it's not what happens to us, but how we react that makes all the difference. Like, bad things happen. Like, you can't. Life is a roller coaster, and there's ups and downs. And I think it was Gary Ridge from WD-40 that said, we celebrate and we mourn no more than 24 hours. Like, when we have big, huge wins, we go out and celebrate, but 24 for a day, and then we get back to work. And if we have something bad happen, we can feel sorry for ourselves. We're allowed to mourn. We're allowed to feel bad for 24 hours, and then we're going to pick ourselves up. We're going to get back to work. But I love that freedom of choice, because I truly believe that every human, that's one of the characteristics that we're given, that when bad things happen, we can wallow in sorrow and pity and feel bad and all that kind of stuff. And that can eat us up, right? That can own us. Or we can choose a path that's going to move us forward. And so that's where optimism, you know, optimists have the same amount of bad things happen in their lives. It's not because they just live a charmed life. And I have a lot of friends that say, you know, you have this charmed life. But, you know, personally, I was adopted. I lost both my parents. I had an ex-wife pass away. It's not like, well, but doesn't matter. I mean, bad things happen, and then you mourn and you move on. So you get to choose who you are as a person every day. And the people that choose, we want the people that choose to come in and make people happy. And that's the goal. If you can figure that out, and not only that, if you have a group of people that all have that mentality in any environment, whether it's in a restaurant, in a corporate office, in a retail store, it doesn't matter where it is, a group of people that all love and care about each other and that are willing to serve each other and say please and thank you and use their magic words, is a place that I would go to work to any day. It's a place where you go get energy. You know, even in your bad days, if you show up, they'll sort of catch you like, what's wrong? Why aren't you smiling today? What's going on? And you can vent because you trust them and you have these great relationships. And so that's what I think that's what world-class companies do. That's what we're trying to become. That's our goal. And then point them in the direction of the guest, that we are here to serve. We are here because people come in and choose us over all of the other options that they had. And it's our obligation to be subservient and get them what they want. And it's not a pain in the ass, and it's not a bother to us. We do it because we want to. We choose to do that. That's what we got up to do today. We got up today to be the spark. And that's the difference between flipping burgers or what I'm there to do, right? That's the why. I get up in the morning to go make people happy. Part of that is through food. People love food. People love cheeseburgers. So we happen to have some great food. And so that makes people happy. But that human interaction where we can, hook people up with some free fries every once in a while or take care of them means all the difference.
And I think going back to one of the things that you were saying is we choose how to respond. Abraham Lincoln would often tell the story of an Eastern monarch who got his wise men all together, and he wanted a saying to be posted on the top of his door. So that way, every time he left, no matter what the situation, it would still be true. And the phrase they came up with was, "This too shall pass." And he
Love
said,
that.
"How humbling in times of success, how consoling in times of affliction." And I think that it's so true. This too shall pass. And you need to be able to do that on the microcosm as well, right? For example, I mean, I don't know, you could have just had, your kids yelling at you right before this call, but it's like, this too shall pass, right? Like, you could have just won the lottery, but it's like, so what? You still showed up here to do this, do this happy hour with me. And I think I love that philosophy, and it all goes back to that extreme ownership over our lives. And one of the things that I've seen so often is what we care about, what we measure improves, right? And that's what we need to focus on. And I know that one of the strategic goals of 2020 for you is to really measure guest satisfaction. And so
Yep.
how does that play into it for you? Why is that important for you?
Yeah, I think so. So great question. I think that we want to measure all of, right. Typically people's KPIs are all financial based. So you're tracking your sales, maybe you're tracking productivity, you're tracking profitability, you're tracking your cost of sales and cost of goods. So that's like the no brainer. Then you get into the guest measurements and you go, okay, well, how do I know if people are happy? And so I need to ask them, right? And so you guys have a great tool and a great segue, but lob. It was a lob. I can hit slow pitch. I can't hit a curveball, but I can hit the slow pitch. So, that was a challenge of ours is we have an app and we try to get people to download the app, and technology has been definitely a focus of ours for 2 years now since I got here. And I think the idea of having a discussion with our guest, as they're leaving. So your tool did two things. One, it was a great way to get instant feedback on how we're doing before people's social media, or if they didn't go ahead and post and they had a great experience, let's get them to social media. But it was also, that was expected. What was unexpected was we had a whole bunch of people, thousands of people, sign up for our email club because we just asked them through a very simple feedback, and it was painless to them. So the technology that you brought to us in keeping it really simple and short and letting people sign up to if they wanted more information from us, but two, have a real honest discussion about what happened, and linking them to the person on site that was there that day, and having the ability to communicate in real time and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's not our goal. Let me get you a new one or whatever. And sometimes we catch them while they're still in the building. It's incredible what that's done for our reputation management. And I can tell you that if we had not built up our email databases over the last year, this would be a very painful COVID process for our businesses. But because we had spent a lot of time and effort on building loyalty and focusing on this, as well as the off-premise technologies, we're not suffering necessarily as much as other brands that hadn't done those same things. And I owe it all to the team, because the team's executing this and they believed in it and they believed in what you're doing. But your tool at Ovation really helped us get to the next level of interaction with our guests, getting real-time feedback that we can monitor. And so that is part of our KPIs now. The scores that we get from you is part of our thing that we look at every single week and we talk about on our calls. Like, that's part of, when we're looking at triple bottom line, profitability and sales are one thing, guest scores are another thing, and what percent are we following up on, and how are we doing on that, and what's our reputation scores that you're helping us track. And then on the employee side, we don't necessarily, turnover is a measurement, but it doesn't necessarily mean if your employees are happy or not. It's just a thing to look at. But you really have to get engagement scores. You really have to ask your employees if they're engaged and talk to them. So we're confident. One of the things that COVID has done is is thinned out the herd of restaurants. I think that's going to continue. I think there's going to be more and more restaurants. There's also going to be less restaurant employees, and those employees that don't like guests will go work for Amazon and deliver packages, or they'll go. No, seriously, they'll go to another industry, because the only people that should be working in the hospitality business are people that are hospitable and that care, and that's what we all want. In our specific segment, in our Better Burger segment, it's hard to find people that can actually technically cook and can serve the guest, right? And I think that's a challenge for fast casual, which is, can you get people that can perform the hard work, but also like people? And so it's a unique skill set. I can tell you that the people that can do it are the future leaders of our industry. None of us started as the boss. We all started, I started as a busser and have worked as a baker, worked in the fryers. I mean, I've worked across the segment, as did almost everybody that's a leader in our industry. And we got here because we were willing to work harder than the people next to us, and we cared more. And sometimes because we've already made all the mistakes. Sometimes we made the mistakes, so if you can learn from those and you don't make the same mistake again, often you can continue. If you keep making the same mistake over and over again, you don't really necessarily get the chance. But the people today that are line cooks and cashiers and people that are starting out in the industry that care and that are willing to work hard can be presidents and CEOs of the next generation. And that's what we want. We want people that want to care.
Dude, I love that, Fred. And I, as you were talking, I was taking my sip, realizing I'm to the bottom of my drink here. But Fred, I have just loved this conversation. I appreciate you as a human, appreciate you as a customer, but more so, I'm grateful to know you, Fred. You truly are a luminary in this industry, and the leadership principles, the things we talked about here. I also started off as a soda jerk, right? I worked at Friendly's back east, and I scooped ice cream, and I made sundaes. I worked in the kitchen, and I bussed tables, and seeing it from that perspective really gave me a really great appreciation for good leaders, because the managers who came in and showed me and were there alongside me, I wanted to work for them. I wanted to do a good job for them. And, having a leader like you, Amergent is lucky, because people feel your love. They can see you serve. They know that you care, and they see you teach that. And so there were so many takeaways, but if I were to boil it down to 5 key takeaways for me: 1, I love balance. I know that you said the triple down, but I like that the quadruple, right? Because it's about the employer, the customer, the investor, and the neighbor, right? Yep. I love that. 2, service profit model. If you guys who are listening and viewing are unfamiliar with that, Google it, look at it. It is wonderful. There's a couple of books here that we actually talked about. One is Delivering and Measuring Customer Service. That's a great one. This other one is Essentials of Service Design and Innovation is another one. I'm not affiliated with either of those companies, but great books. What is that one?
This is called The Carpenter by John Gordon, and that's where love, serve, and care comes from. And you'll recognize some religious overtones. We've sort of taken those out because not everybody believes in the same thing. But John Gordon does a great job of teaching positive things. He's at a national level, but he has probably 10 books. Another good book is since we're pulling out books, he wrote another book called The Energy Bus. And a lot of the things, because we tried to play with this idea of energy, of how we give off positive energies, sort of new age kind of stuff. And that's how we came up with Spark. So a lot of the ideas that we have come from John Gordon.
Interesting. Well, I don't think I've ever had this many books talk about it in a single podcast, but I love that you're also a voracious reader. Yeah. I feel like if you're a good leader, you got to be a good reader, Yeah. And speaking of which, leadership and self-deception, I don't know. That's another really good one that I just finished up this weekend. Okay. Number 3, not just policies, but philosophy of that love, serve, care. 4, hire people who feel they have control over their lives. I love that. That's such a great way to think about hiring, if you could boil it down to one thing. And then lastly, use Ovation. Oh, no, sorry. That was,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, but lastly was having that tool to measure and get real-time feedback. I think it's really important that you do that and you're look at your technology, not just as a means to an end, but you look at your technology as how does it fit into your culture. You don't build culture off your technology. You establish your culture and use technology to reinforce that. And I think
and Ovation's done a great job on the feedback loop of being able to capture those people. Like we're getting 20 to 30 times the feedback that we got by just, randomly asking people or shoppers or those kind of things. So now you have the opportunity to ask every guest, and a lot of those have been giving us feedback. And we learned a lot more about what's actually happening in our restaurants. If I can't be all over the country in all these places, so now we're getting a ton of feedback, and now we can reward those great employees that have done such a wonderful job because they're being called out by name. So the feedback loop in Ovation is a wonderful, wonderful tool.
Awesome. Well, Fred, I sure do appreciate you. How do people follow you?
Come work for me. I'll wash your feet.
Awesome. Well, Fred, today's ovation goes to you for being not just, and I think the word luminary does fit so well because you spark so much light into this industry. Be it hospitality or be it any industry, this is a podcast that I feel everyone should listen to. You're someone that I feel every leader should follow. So thank you for being that light, that spark, and for bringing that peace and that love. At the end of the day, burgers, because getting people happy. So thank you, Fred.
Cheers.
Glad you're with us today, and thank you. Thank you to the risk takers, the troublemakers, the crazies who are keeping this world clothed and fed. You're the ones who deserve an ovation. Again, this podcast was sponsored by Ovation. To see how we can help you grow your business, go to ovationup.com. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, remember to give someone in your life an ovation today.